Welcome to Dream Right Go. I am your host, DWG. Let's get it. So, tonight, it's about roughly 1 o'clock in the morning. So, yesterday, technically, the Godot team has released the Dev 4.5 Dev 2. As you know, that the 4.4 stable release has been released, and a lot of people are out there having a good time with it. And Godot seems to be not, sitting back. They seem to be, pushing forward with development and working on 4.5. Dev 2 snapshot has been released. Now, with these snapshots, basically, they're sending it out to the users, us, and say, hey, you know what? Take this, check it out, kick the tires, find those errors, find those things that are wrong, those bugs, right? Squash the bugs. Find those bugs, report it back, and, they'll fix it. So, in this particular release, they have a couple different highlights: a dedicated 2D navigation server, recognized shader editor UI advancement. We got change of language here, fragment density maps, Wayland, and a whole lot more stuff here. Okay. Now, of course, take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, because as you guys know, I'm teaching myself as I go along. And I highly encourage you, as a new user, beginner, or whatever, that you look at these things and read it, try to understand it, and then look up what it is so that you can kind of wrap your mind around it. So if we go down here to the bottom right here, one of the ones that I kind of least understand, but I think I know what they're talking about here. As far as Wayland being a modern display server, I believe it goes up against X11. In any case, it has, or Wayland doesn't natively support embedded smaller windows like inside of the application, is the gist of what I'm getting. So like these smaller windows, this didn't come natively supported by Wayland, if I'm understanding this information correctly. Of course, again, I could be wrong about that. So, but that's what I think that means, that it's giving Godot the ability to have embedded smaller windows inside of, like, when you open up the tool panel, you could have an even more smaller window that has more options inside of it. That's what I believe. Of course, if I'm wrong, write down in the chat, put down there, the comments about what's happening. Then we have the fragment density map support when it deals with VRs. Now, my understanding of this, or what I think that they're trying to say, is that in the VR world, that whenever you're kind of like looking around inside of your goggles and whatnot, that a lot of people pay attention to what's right there in front of them, and as they're turning their head and everything, the focus is right there in front of them. However, along the edges is where things kind of degrade, or since you're not really looking over there, the quality of the edges aren't that great. And there's probably a couple different ways that they handle this. And I think what this part here, this fragment density map support, is to give a better performance around the edges without making the edges look totally like messed up or like really low quality. And it seems to be directed at certain types of VR headsets. The mention of Meta Quest comes up here. And again, this is something like, I don't have a VR headset. I've used it before when I went to Best Buy. They're pretty interesting, but not really my wheelhouse at this time. The change editor, or the changing editor language without restarting, that's pretty cool. So like if you speak a different language, like, okay, so I'm speaking some form of English here, and if you speak a different language, Spanish or whatever, like, there's a bunch of languages out there, French, uh, that you can change the language right on the fly, like right inside of the editor, right at that time, without, I guess, changing a parameter and rebooting it. It saves time from what I'm getting from this. Like, okay, I speak a different language. I'm going to change this over to this language, and then Godot just updates, and that way you're not, oh, I got to reboot. And some people, that might seem like a ridiculous thing. Like they say, oh, well, it's just a reboot. But when you're out there and you're working and you want to try to get things done, you to have it in your own language and to be able to change that language right then, I think that's a pretty important thing. And I think that's cool. I think that's a thoughtful gesture there to have that somebody worked on that. I think that's really cool. Now, reorganize shader editor UI. I don't know anything about shaders. Okay, I'm starting to learn stuff right now, and shaders is just not. I'm not in that place right now, so you can look that up right for yourself. Now, this one right here is really interesting. This dedicated 2D navigation server. Now, when I first saw this, I thought that it meant like like when you go over into Godot and you pop open Godot and there's a 2D, 3D, and then whenever you're looking up your different nodes and whatnot, as you're looking them up, different types of nodes will come up. Some of them will be 2D related, some of them will be like 3D related, that kind of thing. When I was first reading this, I thought that that's what that meant, but that's not what this is. What this is about whenever you're navigating inside of your game. There's different types of navigations inside of your game, and the server that does that for you, the tool that handles those navigations for you, whether you're in 3D or 2D, it handled both of them. It had both the 3D information in there as well as the 2D information. Now, here's the thing though, if you were working on a 2D game, and that was your thing, then you was also would have, or that information about 3D was also packaged in there with your 2D game, making the package a little bit bigger than what it really needed to be, because you weren't using the 3D parts. Now, of course, the first thing that popped in my mind as I was like kind of figuring this out, the first thing that popped up in my mind was, what about those games that use 2D and 3D, right? So some of you guys out there may know of a game called Octopath Traveler or Paper Mario. Now, inside of those, they're inside of a 3D environment, but the characters are made to appear 3D. So they are actually in a 3D environment, but the cameras and the way that they do things, it makes the characters look like there's 2D, or that they act like 2D inside of that 3D world. Because there's a couple different ways that you can go about that. There's like truly mixed 3D, 2D, where you literally have both elements of 2D and 3D in there. Like you could have a 3D game, but you got a 2D user interface, right? So that's, kind of a true mix thing. And then you can have you could have a split. You could have 2D where like certain scenes in your game is 2D and other scenes are fully 3D, and that you kind of, couple those together and create your game. So there's a lot of different ways to go about this. So I was thinking to myself, okay, so what happens whenever you're using 2D and 3D together, like a truly mixed type of deal? So my understanding is that with this dedicated navigation server, you're going to have a dedicated 2D navigation server, and you're going to have a dedicated 3D navigation server. And then you should be able to, well, I would assume you would be able to turn it, you know, enable it as you needed it. So if there was a particular scene that you were building that you only needed the 2D navigation server for, you would enable that. But then if you were jumping over to a different type of navigation where you were doing 3D, you can enable the 3D navigation for that. But you wouldn't have both of them occupying space inside of your executable at the same time at all times, causing, more data, or a little bit of bloat there that is unnecessary. So that is my understanding of that. So, again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm just out here, kind of just conversating and talking with y'all. So I could be completely, absolutely 1000% be wrong about everything that I just said. Okay. And I'm having a good time over at Dream Right Go. My last video I did here was creating a tutorial, and I was talking about creating a tutorial. Here's the tutorial right here that I'm actually working on. I took a break to do this video, and I jumped on over to the documents. Now, remember, if you're new, definitely go over there to the documents. This is right inside of Godot, because I got real lost about particles. And I'm trying not to watch too many tutorials and whatnot. I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around just looking up the data and trying to figure it out. It's not a knock on any type of videos or anything out there, but one of the reasons why I suggest that people definitely keep on working on games and just anything uh, from a human standpoint. There's a lot of AI stuff that's out there, but it keeps your brain thinking. You got to keep thinking for yourself, and I think that is extremely important. So I went on ahead and checked out a lot of documentation that was right over here in Godot. And since I did that and was, poking around with different stuff, I ended up coming up with this, which if you saw my other video, if you checked out my other video, you'll notice that this is an improvement over what I had before, because what I had before was, number one, was giant. And this is working so much better now. Now, I got a long way to go. There's a lot more other things that I have to do, but hey, you know, 24 hours ago, I didn't know how to do what you see on screen right now. I had no idea. And I, took the day and just started poking around with it and looking for different things and started teaching myself it. And then as I go along, I write this type of stuff up, right? So here you go, step-by-step tutorial, particle effects, and then I started to type this stuff up. And the reason why is because I want to be able to come back here and then read my own notes, and I'll understand what is happening here, because sometimes there are certain things that it'll come up and you'll find it in documentation, but it doesn't exactly gel right inside of your head. You might not exactly understand what's being said and whatnot. So I like to take information that I find and then I type it up in the way that I understand it. And again, if anybody's ever interested in those types of notes, I freely will be happy to share them. Or I don't know, maybe nobody finds any value in that, but that's okay. I mean, it's all good. You do you, but I'm just saying, I'm willing to share if that it will help somebody.